Hello, Don LeRae here. Apologies for my delay. Few technical difficulties, but we're going to roll with it and get going now. Super excited today to talk about values, talking about our non-negotiables. And I don't know about you, but when I think about a career change at midlife, I can't even imagine starting with anything else other than what are our non-negotiables. And when I think of our non-negotiables, our values, I think about how they truly are a glimpse into our soul of who we are. And who we are is a sum of all the things that we've encountered in our lifetime, from childhood till now. And for most of us, that's quite a few years. So it's so important that we put our values front and center as we think about our next career and where we want to go. So we're going to dedicate our time here today to talk about that. Do you ever have a feeling, I know I have, over the course of your lifetime in your career where you're almost pretending to be someone else? And it might not be super obvious, but you can feel it inside of you. And maybe you're doing it just to fit in with your work environment and your colleagues. Maybe you're trying to get approval of your boss. Maybe you're just surviving in the career because you need the paycheck. Has that happened to you? Have you ever had that feeling? And you adapt to those situations to survive. But it doesn't always feel natural. In fact, sometimes it might even rub you the wrong way. But you do it anyway. And I've been there. I can't even count how many times I personally have just fit the mold in order to keep the career and the job that I was in. So I really understand what it can be like to want to play the role that you're being put in, even though underneath the surface it may not mesh with who you are. And we concede. We concede to following the path laid out for us. It's a path of least resistance on the surface. But what I also want to say to you is at what risk to you? At what risk to your health? Martha Beck, who was actually Oprah Winfrey's coach, talks about this in one of her books on cognitive dissonance, when we are operating in an environment that doesn't naturally fit with who we are on the inside, but we are doing it to basically stay in alignment with what's around us. But that is eating away at us throughout our lifetime. And year over year over year, you might even forget who you really are and what you really stand for. So that's why it's super critical that we spend some time talking about our non-negotiables. And I was also thinking, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I'm a Gen X woman. So I grew up back in a time when there were authority figures that you listened to. And you also were and I think for us women especially, we wanted to be different than our moms. We wanted to be very independent, that we could do it all, we could do anything. And so when we were young, being fairly, at least I was latchkey kid, figuring it out, doing it on my own, and doing what I was told. And that's how we were rewarded. We were rewarded for doing what we were asked to do by authority figures. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing in all respects, unless we are carrying that into our current roles and jobs, and it's putting us out of alignment with who we really are. And again, what is that doing to our well-being and our insides? The turmoil that we are creating within us that no one on the outside can see. So again, our values, they're a glimpse into our soul from my perspective, and they're the sum of all of our life experiences. And I think that we have the right to be in alignment with our values in our careers. Every one of us. So, one thing I did pull a statistic I want to share with you here from Gallup, because I want you to know that you're not alone. So in Gallup, this was the Global Workplace 2022 report. 60% of people reported being emotionally detached at work. 60%, with 19% being miserable. And in the United States specifically, 50% of workers are reporting stress daily at their jobs. I remember this myself, and I can speak to here my prior career. And what my experience is putting on a persona of someone I wasn't. Why? I wanted to prove to everybody that I could work in this field. I was smart, I was accomplished, and truth be told, I wanted to make my family proud too. Was it me? No. So again, putting on a persona to fit in to the work environment in which I was placed. Were they bad people? Not at all. But were they my people? Also, not at all. And so when I figured that out for me, and unfortunately it took a pretty major life health event in my family for me to come out of that and to realize this is so critical to me, I need to do something. And one of the first things I did was I got clear on who I am. And part of who I am are my values. And that's why I am so passionate about this work that I'm doing with women, is identifying who you are. And again, no better place to start than with your values. All right, so we're going to dig in a little bit here, and I'm going to take you through some simple exercises. Now, I will say with my clients, we do dig deeper. We spend more time digging into values, what they mean, why they're important, and really evaluate them in a way so that we can drill them into from our unconscious to conscious levels. So as we're making decisions about future careers, we're really solid in what's important to us, and we're willing to stand behind those. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, get a piece of paper and a pen if you haven't yet. Okay, so we're going to talk about your top values, and I want you to sit down and I want you to think about 1 to 3 of your top values. And the reason this is important, as I said, we're getting into who you are, what you stand for. And if we don't know that, how can we think about your career in the future? And you have lived experiences. You have so many lived experiences that when you spend the time doing this, you can get clear on what they are for you. Okay? They might be under the surface, but I want you to dig in. Now I'm going to give you a few examples. I personally like a few examples. It just kind of stimulates for me some of my own thoughts. Please know this is not an inclusive list, just some things to stimulate some ideas for you. So authenticity, bravery, connection, fulfillment, freedom, fun, humility, honesty, integrity, loyalty, nurturing, positivity, professionalism, recognition, self-control, self-mastery, and the list goes on and on. So, how's your list coming? What's coming up for you? Again, just top 2 to 3. That's all we're going to spend time on today. When I work with my clients, we actually use, it's Tim Brownson's clarity method, and it's a whole values exercise that really helps kind of break down any biases we might have in our head, that we might screen out certain values that are actually really real to us. We don't have time for that here, But this is still good. This is still getting you moving on in the direction that will help you think about where you want to go. All right. So normally I would talk a little bit also about what these values mean to you, because each value could mean something a little different to us. So for example, peace, I might look at peace as just, peace in my relationships. For someone else, it may mean world peace, or it might mean peace in your career. It could be so many different things. So in my work with my one-on-one work with my clients, we really dig into what does it mean to you, so we really understand what we're talking about. So getting that clear is important. Next, again, pen and paper. As you're looking at your top 2 to 3 values, I want you to write down why each of them are important to you. Why are they important to you? And, let's be real. Our values are as unique to each of us as our own DNA, right? So understanding your values and why they're important to you is as important as understanding what they are. Your values may be important to you because of life experiences with family, friends, your church, TV shows you watch, friends you hung out with in high school, jobs you've had. Think of all the life exposures we've had. Social media, all of these things are influencing us and the values that we bring forward today as midlife women. Okay? So for each of those, I want you to write down why they're important to you. I can tell you that, when I work with my clients on this values exercise, so many of us have not spent the time understanding why they're important to us. And it can stir up some emotions and some thoughts that we've had tucked underneath the surface. So again, it's just really so important that we pull this out, because I believe that separating us from our values and putting ourselves in situations where we're not allowed to be in alignment with our values is detrimental to our own well-being and our health. I will mention another part of my program that we don't have time here to cover are anti-values. And so they're exactly what you think. They're the opposite of. So they're what is important to you not to be exposed to in your career. So that's another interesting component that we dig into in the program is anti-values. All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to write down why each of your values is important to you. Next, we're going to measure your alignment with your values in your current career. Why is this important? So this is important because if we don't understand where we're at now, how can we make decisions about our future and our future careers? So that if we're not in alignment now, we make good choices so that we can be. Okay, so going back to your list of values and your whys next to them, I want you to rank from 1 to 10 how in alignment you are with each of those values in your current career. A 1 means not at all, not in alignment whatsoever. Going to work every day is so detrimental to my health. I cry, I get angry, I am not spending time with my family like I normally would. It's just taken everything over within me. It's all I can do but survive. A 10 means, wow, 100% alignment. Couldn't be better. So excited to work in this job that completely aligns with this value. Okay, so you have 1 or 2 to 3 values you've written. I want you to do that scaling for me. And as you're doing that, I did want to talk about cognitive dissonance, and I referenced it earlier. And I actually have an official definition for you to share. Cognitive dissonance is when you have a mental conflict that occurs when your beliefs do not line up with your actions. So, kind of reverting back to even in our childhood, when were those moments when we were trying to please a parent, a professor, a brother, a sister, and doing something that wasn't in alignment with who we are deep down, and that feeling that you have inside of you because of it. And now, fast forward how many years later, are we still doing that? And imagine the toll on you all of these years later. Okay. How are you doing on your questions? Scale of 1 to 10. 1 being worst case scenario, not aligned at all. 10 being completely aligned. Okay. I did want to talk a little bit about, that feeling you have when you're in a work situation and you're being asked to do something. And what you're being asked to do does not sit with you. It feels wrong from your vantage point and your value system. How many times do you push that down in order to survive? And then we go home at night and we push it down further, and we push it down further. And pretty soon, we're just operating as is. We're not considering the implications to us internally, our insides. All right, scale of 1 to 10. I hope you were able to get through that. Now, I want for each of those, I want you to go in and write down in what ways you're not aligned with each of those. In what ways you're not aligned. This could be examples of actual situations that have happened. Let's say freedom is one of your values, and you are working in a situation where you're feeling micromanaged and you don't have freedom of choice. Okay? That could be an example. Or there was a specific thing that happened at work or has happened multiple times, and it's XYZ, and I have no freedom of choice in my current role. And that works against my values, one of my non-negotiables. So in the interest of time, I'm going to wrap up this session, but I do want to just encourage you to finish this out. Finish out writing down the how these may not be aligned with your values. Okay. And then finally, just a few things here from my notes. I did want to let you know that next week we're going to dig into your values at an even deeper level. So bring your notes from this week to next week. And as we dig in deeper, I have some pretty, some questions that I believe are going to create a lot of insight for you. And we're going to start talking about action. What can we do going forward so that we can get back to feeling in alignment with who you are? Okay. So today, what did we cover? You identified your top 2 to 3 values. You wrote down why they were important to you. You measured your current alignment with where you're at in your job today, and in what ways you're not aligned. This is just the beginning. Next week we're going to go deeper, so I hope you can join me. And if this resonated with you, and you would like to talk a little bit more about your values and your misalignment, and or just learn more about my broader program, either way, DM me. I'd be happy to connect with you and talk more so that you can feel supported as you're making these decisions. And I have to end it with, it is never too late, ladies. It's never too late. Be well.